All right, and we're live. This is the first official FiberCast episode. My guest today is the one and only JT, one of New Jersey's most creative content producers. He honored me with the chance of having him as the first guest for this podcast, and it only makes sense because he's one of the main people that is helping me with the whole personal branding and the content creation with the vlogs. If you guys haven't checked out the vlogs, if you're watching this right now on YouTube, check it out. I'll post it in the end credits in the end card, so you guys can watch that as well. And yeah, so thanks for being on. Thanks for coming
Definitely,
on.
man. Thanks for that lovely introduction. Definitely
Humble.
boosted my ego a little bit.
It's about to explode, but that's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, so let me try to explain to everybody what this podcast is going to be essentially. So, as you probably know this, but most people don't. I'm a big fan of podcasts, right? Because it's just an easy way for you to consume content. So, for example, you could be driving right now, you could be at work doing, that monotone task, that repetitive task that you don't really need to deploy all of your attention. So, that's what I do actually at work. So, I always have an earpiece plugged in, be it doing fiber fitness stuff, be it walking around driving. I always have something in my ear, source of information and content. And I think that that's where the world is going. Because Gary Vee, for example, he talked about how voice is the next frontier in content consumption, right?
Yeah.
And it just makes sense. I mean, audiobooks. I mean, I stopped buying books. Now I just, download them off of Audible. I buy them from Audible, and it's much more practical for me. Although I still love, feeling the hard copy. But what's your opinion on podcasts? Do you consume them on a daily basis? Do you like them? Do you have any that you could recommend to people who are watching this right now?
Yeah. So I definitely think that podcasts have definitely boomed in the last 5 years.
Hmm.
5 years ago, I didn't even know what a podcast was.
Yeah, me either.
But essentially, what a podcast is, it's sort of like the evolution of radio.
Yeah.
Um, People are it definitely, like, I listen to it a lot when I'm going to
Hmm.
the gym.
Hmm.
I just throw on. I personally listen to like Lewis House,
School of Greatness.
School of Greatness,
Yeah.
Gary Vee,
Hmm.
Tim Ferriss.
Hmm.
Um, is just where it's at right now, man.
Yeah.
It
100%.
also, as far as like Gary Vee goes, at some point humans become a bit lazy
Hmm.
or they don't have enough time to do certain things.
Hmm.
So a lot of professionals don't have time to watch Gary's video content. So
Hmm.
they watch it on, like, well, they listen to it on their way to work.
So it's a
Um,
different way to consume it,
yeah.
and you consume it the same way, basically, right?
Well,
Like
you're
like you
consuming the same
acquire,
content, but you're consuming it differently.
yeah,
Um,
but still reaping the benefits from it.
yeah, because when I mean, podcasts, the reason it's been booming is because, well, one of the reasons I think it's been booming is because people, the people that put out podcasts understand the different types of learning. Some
Mm.
people are highly or very high in like audio. They learn through sound and stuff like that.
Mm.
Compared to other people who are more like visual
Mhm.
learners. Um, that's why audiobooks have been booming too. I mean,
Yeah.
for me personally, I don't really listen to audiobooks.
Mhm.
I like the
The hands-on feel.
hands-on
Yeah.
physical copy of the book.
Mhm.
Um, but when it comes to listening, yeah, podcasts are something that I try to stay on top of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like I noticed that people our age, for example, which I'll segue into in a bit, but people our age don't really know much about this whole self-development world because people our age are, busy and trying to hook up with girls and trying to get laid and going to parties and just, college life and all that shit. So it's very rare to have, like how old are you? 20,
22.
22. Yeah, so people our age in their 20s that are so concerned with developing themselves and trying to perfect their craft every single day, right? And putting in maximum effort. Like most kids, for example, like most kids I know my age, like all they care about is just drinking, just hooking up with that girl with all that shit. But when you concentrate on, perfecting your craft, then that'll pay off in the long run, I think, right? So when you're like in your 30s, you'll look back and thank yourself for actually concerning yourself with, trying to optimize yourself, if that makes any sense. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. I
Yeah.
kind of went around, but what I want to segue into now is like, what is it that attracted you and that put you on this path, on this entrepreneurial path, on this self development path? Because you said that you listen to Lewis Howes, Tim Ferriss, Gary Vee, and they're all, um, I'd say, like they all preach about self development, entrepreneurship, and all that stuff. So, what led you down that path as opposed to like taking a more traditional route, maybe becoming a doctor, maybe becoming a lawyer? Um, what led you down that path?
Yeah.
So,
Well, growing up, I was always somebody that asked a lot of questions, and if shit
that
didn't make
annoying kid that won't shut up.
not necessarily the annoying kid that won't shut up, but
Yeah.
the type of kid that wouldn't do something unless they deeply understood why they were doing that thing. Um, and I think to really answer your question as to why I gravitated to being that sort of entrepreneurial minded, individualistic type of person, I guess I'd have to think back into like how I grew up and stuff like that. So I was born in Peru, so I'm an
Okay.
immigrant.
Okay.
I was born in Peru, and I came here when I was 4, and I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. That's where I landed. So Newark, that's like my Plymouth Rock. That's where
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
came,
Where it all started.
where it all began.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for the most significant parts of my childhood, like the later years in middle school, I grew up with a single mother. In addition to that, she didn't speak English.
Fluently.
Or
at
I mean, in
all.
the beginning, she didn't speak
Yeah,
English at
yeah.
all, right? I mean, I picked up the English language pretty
of
fast,
school and
but
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like she didn't speak English at all. So growing up, I didn't really have somebody to help me with my homework or that can, teach me something that I was learning in school because my mom didn't really speak English.
Yeah.
So I very quickly I had to take things into just my own hand and take be willing to just learn on my own, go home and do homework on my own and like teach myself. So that habit sort of just transitioned with me over the years to the point where the best way that I learn things is through self-education, because that's kind of the scenario that I was put in growing up.
And that's really interesting, actually, because like you were kind of forced from a very young age to kind of assume the leadership or the alpha male position within the household as well, right? Because your mother's a single mom, right? Like you grew up in a single mother household.
Yeah, for the significant
part.
parts of my childhood, that's kind of how it was as far as I remember it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, it's kind of funny as well because like my story is really similar to yours, where I'm not sure if I arrived in Newark, New Jersey, but I'm 80% sure. But also like my mother, was a single parent, and we arrived from Brazil. I was like 2 years old, like a year and a half roughly, and I went through the same thing that you just described, to a point where I would get help from the neighbors if I had any problems with homework or anything, school related or education related. So I couldn't really count on my mom, and that went, throughout even high school, which I went to high school in Brazil, even in Portuguese. Like she wasn't like my mom never really got a formal degree in anything. Like she didn't go to college. I don't think she even finished high school, to be honest. And so I could never really rely on her for that. And so I was always that kid who, similar to you, would always take matters into their own hands and kind of try to like self-educate yourself in order for you to actually, make things happen. Would you say that, for example, you said that you question a lot of things before you actually accept them and do them? So does that mean that, like, do you consider yourself a person that's against authority? Like, do you resonate with that at all, or no?
I am someone who I'm against authority, if it's sort of pushing me to do something that I don't necessarily agree with, or that I really can't
Justify.
I guess, for example, one of the best examples I can give you is when I was 9 years old, I stopped believing in a higher power.
Why?
That's probably something I never even told you.
Y-
But
yeah.
yeah,
Why?
so when I was 9 years old, I guess I officially became a non-believer in a supernatural being.
Can you
And-
raise your mic just a little bit more? Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just try to talk to this area right here rather than from the top. Yeah, there you go.
Right here?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay,
perfect.
cool. All right, so my me being against authority goes back to just me being 9 years old, kind of being against the authority of the church, I guess, right? So I grew up Catholic.
Okay.
I don't know. Are you? I don't know if
I grew up Catholic,
you
but
grew up
I'm
Catholic
not
too?
a religious person
You're
at
okay.
all. Yeah.
But you're familiar with like Catholic Mass, where
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's a section in the Mass where you there's like you have kneelers, and you kneel down and like you pray, right? All right. So I remember I was 9 years old, and I was going to like catechism. I was learning about God and all this stuff, and there was this one particular instance. I was in the church during Mass, and it was time to kneel down and pray. And so I put the kneeler down, get on my knees, and for some reason, while it was time to pray, I just decided to look up, and I just see everybody just like with their heads down.
Just everybody following instructions.
Yeah.
Just doing what they're told.
And I'm like, I just look around and I'm like, what?
What a bunch of
is-
sheep.
What is going on here? What is this?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
after that day, I just started questioning everything, including my own existence.
Deep.
Yeah.
Deep.
And I stopped believing in a higher authority.
So do you believe in anything at all? Like when it comes to believing in something more than yourself, like what do you believe in? Or do you have an external belief system?
Yeah. So when you stop being religious, for me, the next thing that I can resort to was philosophy.
Philosophy, okay.
So I'm a very,
Yeah.
very philosophical person. And when I
Deep
say that, I
person.
don't just mean that I can talk deep. What I mean is that I study philosophy. Like I study Friedrich Nietzsche. I study Soren Kierkegaard. I study, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle,
Okay.
pre-Socratic philosophers too. So I can talk about those things too. And I use those things sort of to guide me
Okay.
in to have some kind of moral fiber. I don't necessarily use. I decided not to use the Bible or any religious text as that sort of guidance. I resorted to the philosophical titans of their time, and I studied them instead.
And then you kind of create this melting pot of philosophers where you kind of pour that into your own cup, I would assume,
Yeah,
right?
so
and then,
after
and then
studying-
you drink from that cup rather
Yeah,
than
exactly.
Yeah.
So I studied a couple philosophers, and
What's your favorite philosopher?
who's my favorite philosopher?
Yeah. Who's your sorry. Yeah,
I have two favorite philosophers. Actually three.
Actually 4, 5, 6.
I
have a list, actually.
The first two philosophers that I really like are these two existentialist philosophers. The first is Soren Kierkegaard. He was an early 19th century Danish philosopher. The second is Friedrich Nietzsche. He
Which was the
a-
most optimistic person to ever have lived. I would say. God is
Friedrich
dead,
Nietzsche-
right?
Yeah, so he
God
said
is
God
dead.
is dead. And,
Yeah.
late 19th century German philosopher. And the third favorite is Marcus Aurelius, who was an emperor in Rome.
Yeah.
And he's regarded as a Stoic philosopher. So as far as like what are my favorite types of philosophies and what do I follow the most, it's Stoicism, existentialism, and even Buddhism too.
Buddhism. Got it. Got it. Stoicism is what Ryan Holiday bases his content off of, right?
Talking
Like
about
I
that book
have the
right there.
book right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so I actually
the Daily
read.
Stoic.
I read that book every day. So the way you're
Mhm.
supposed to read that book is literally every day
It's
because
daily. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
every page is a new day. So today, May 29th,
Mhm.
the topic was work is therapy.
Work is therapy. Yeah.
Yeah, that
I
was
don't really
today's.
even use that book to be honest. I just bought it because I found it interesting. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I'm a
It's
huge
actually
Ryan Holiday
so
fan.
reading Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic is a part of my morning routine every day.
Okay. Do you do any meditation or any just pre exercise like to begin your day? Like, do you have any morning routine that you do religiously?
Yeah.
Like what?
So my morning routine is this. I wake up,
Hmm.
I get off my bed, and the first thing I do is I open the blinds in my room.
Hmm.
So I'm waking up, get up, open the blinds in my room, then I make my bed,
Hmm.
then I go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, wash my face, then I make myself a cup of coffee.
Fiber Fitness coffee.
Um,
Maybe in the future, who knows?
Yeah, maybe in the future I gotta
Yeah.
get the right ingredients.
Yeah.
But for me, I only drink black coffee, so I literally just hot water, black coffee, straight up.
Yeah.
Make myself a cup of coffee, go back to my room. I write in a journal. The 5-minute journal is what it's called. So basically, every morning I think about, or I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. I also write down what would make that day great, right?
So what you would accomplish that day that would make you
That day
feel
great.
satisfied and complete.
Yeah,
basically. Okay.
for that specific
Yeah.
day.
Got it.
So after I write in my journal,
Hmm.
I read 1 page in the Daily Stoic,
Hmm.
and then after reading that page, I meditate for 10 minutes.
Mm.
Now that meditation is a guided meditation.
I was about to ask that if it's guided or if you have your own form of practice or your own. Well, it is a form of practice.
yes.
Guided meditation.
Yeah. So when I first started researching meditation, or when you research meditation, people's first notion of what meditation is sort of like the crisscross applesauce, hands
Yeah,
out like
with
this.
the hands out,
Vipa-
Buddha
Yeah,
position.
the Buddha
Yeah.
Vipassana position,
Mhm.
and I tried doing that. Not the greatest at it. I don't know why. You really actually need to practice
Yeah, of
how
course.
to meditate
Yeah.
like that for it to work.
It's years and years of practices,
Yeah.
right? For you to actually like stay still and and go like minutes and minutes or even hours of just
Yeah.
meditating. Yeah.
But then I realized that the true essence of meditating is simply mindfulness,
It's clearing your mind.
clearing your mind, right? And anything can be a meditative practice. Walking in the park and listening to music can be a meditative practice. But my meditative practice for 10 minutes is a guided meditation. But what I did actually was I listened to a guided meditation that already exists,
Mhm.
right? I copied the words like on a notepad, and then I recorded myself saying those words.
Oh, so you follow your own voice
Yeah.
through the guided. So you're guiding yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So I
that's some
I
Inception shit right
recorded
there.
myself
Yeah.
the guided meditation, and then I put like some nature sounds in the background.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I did this all on like GarageBand,
Wow.
and 10 minutes, and it's basically 10 minutes a day when I meditate. It's sort of me talking to myself. So I'm hearing myself. And yeah, that's
So it's basically you reassuring yourself. Yeah, just basically you're giving yourself reassurance
Yep.
right off the bat, the first thing in the morning, which is something that people go all day searching for, which is reassurance, right? Because that's what we're all searching for. So when you apply mindfulness and reassurance, those 10 minutes can give you a completely different outcome throughout, that day, for example.
Yeah.
Which isn't what most people like. Most people don't understand. So when you say, "Oh, I meditate 10 minutes," people will immediately imagine JT sitting in the crisscross position, that typical Buddha position. But it doesn't really have to be like that. Like you could be laying down on your bed, sitting right here where we are. If we were to pause this right now and just meditate for 10 minutes, that is a possibility, right? Like that's how you
Yeah.
should, which is interesting. Would you say that meditation changed your life in any way or shape or form? Like has it greatly impacted you, or what's the impact? Like what's the difference between JT that used to not meditate to JT today who meditates 10 minutes per day?
Yeah.
What would you?
So yeah, the meditation over time definitely impacts you
Hmm.
because life is hectic.
Yeah, it's too much stuff going on.
Too
It's
much stuff is going
information
on,
going in and out.
and
Yeah.
when you meditate every day and you
Hmm.
make it a consistent practice,
Hmm.
you're sort of allocating a specific portion of your day to complete mindfulness, something that you normally wouldn't do.
Hmm.
And so doing that in the morning sets you up for the rest of the day.
Sets you up for success, even if you
Right.
were to say, right?
So, if you win the, like, having a morning routine is crucial.
Agree.
I mean, every successful person
Yeah.
has a morning routine
That they follow religiously.
that they follow
Yeah.
religiously.
Hmm.
And if you win the morning, you win the day.
Yeah. There's actually this really good book. I forgot what the author's name is, but it's called Make Your Bed. I don't have it here because I consumed it through Audible, but essentially that's what he talks about. It's like the small things that you do says a lot about how you go about your day and how you interact and treat the larger things in life, right? So for example, you said that you wake up and you make your bed. Like that is such a small detail to your day, but that ultimately reflects on how you as a person, as a human being, interacts and goes about resolving certain conflicts throughout your day. So larger
Hmm.
things can be stemmed down to that small action of you simply making your bed. So people who, for example, if you wake up and you don't make your bed, that says that you're the type of person that believes that you can leave certain things for later. And it also shows that you're a person that doesn't really, for example, why make my bed if I'm going to sleep in it again tonight, right? So
Yeah.
why put in the effort and the energy to do this every single day, this repetitive task, if the outcome is still going to be the same? But what people don't understand is that success, for you to become successful in life, be it like any subject, any profession, career, that's exactly how you get to that successful um, epitome, if you will, is doing the same repetitive tasks over and over, expecting the same outcome, even if the outcome is still the same. But if you do that over a large period of time, you'll eventually peak, right? So yeah, so that's why I also have a very religious morning routine that I do as well, which I think helps everybody and everybody should do. And yeah, do you have anything?
Yeah. So basically, your brain loves routines,
Yes. Yes.
but you got to be very careful about it
Yeah.
because if you have a morning routine,
Hmm.
that's fine.
Hmm.
But where people screw up is, the people who live their lives super unhappy because their routine is
9 to 5,
9 to 5
clocking in,
routine, right?
clocking out.
So when you let that be your routine,
Yeah. Hmm.
your brain becomes complacent,
Mm.
and you don't want to live your entire life like that.
Hmm.
Um, so allocating a routine in the morning, just
Hmm.
in the morning and at night too, should be fine with that. But if your whole day is a routine,
Is a routine, then it gets.
then you're fucking up.
And it's actually funny that you bring that up because like our brain is one of the oldest computers, right? Because like it's the same organ basically from like, tens of thousands of years ago from our ancestors, right? So what our brain wants to do on a daily basis, it doesn't really care about what's going on. Like it doesn't understand technology. It doesn't understand all of these drastic changes. Like there are certain characteristics that it still practices to this day. So our brain on a daily basis, all it wants to do is it wants to keep us alive. And so what you just said is that like routine, we love routine because it gives us a sense of security, right? So
Yeah.
when it gives you a sense of security, you become complacent, and that amplifies your chances of survival as opposed to, trying new things constantly and stuff. So your brain kind of calls you back and says, no, 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 JT, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here. Let's get a 9 to 5. Let's work at this job for the rest of your life, and you're good. You'll retire. You'll, allocate resources towards your 401k. You'll have kids. You'll get married, and that's a traditional life. It worked for these people, so let's just stay on that route because then you'll survive. Your chances of getting to 80, 70, it's much larger, as opposed if you were a person that's like defying authority, defying the status quo, then your brain is like, holy shit, like this is too unstable. Like let's like attach ourselves to some routine or to something that's familiar. And that's how our brain functions. It's like it doesn't care about anything. It just wants to keep you alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, natural instinct. And I love to like apply that because that book right there, for example, Sapiens, it talks a lot about that. It talks a lot about how our brain is just, designed to just, keep us alive and stuff. But all right, so let's segue now into like, because I also want to talk about what it is about content creation and videography and just filmmaking that attracted you to a point where you're dedicating all of your time and energy to it, right? So what is it about those things that attracted you or that called you in?
Yeah. So that's a good question.
That's a good question.
Very
It's a
good
deep
question. It could.
Do you want to fix your mic? 'Cause-
Yeah. I think a deeper version of that question is, they. I think it was Samuel Clemens,
Mm.
who's also known as Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. Oh.
Yeah. He had this quote, and he said, I think it was him, and he said that the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you figure out why.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
And so about 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that the reason I was born
Mm-hmm.
was to tell stories.
Hmm.
I am super passionate about storytelling, and I like helping other people tell their stories because it ties in with communication,
Mm-hmm.
right? We live in this interconnected world, and
Especially now with social media.
especially now with social media, right?
Yeah.
So, the key is how are we communicating, right? And the way we communicate is through content. It's how brands communicate with customers. It's how
People relate with each other.
Yeah, it's how YouTubers communicate with their audience.
Yeah.
It's just an author has text as their content. That's how
Yeah.
they're communicating to their audience. Somebody who makes video is the same way, but it's just with video.
It's just a different form, a different vehicle, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, the reason I kind of naturally fell into this is because when I was in high school, my best subject was English.
Wow.
That's just how I was.
So you never really like felt anything towards biology, chemistry, like in a sense where you're like, holy shit, like I want to do this for the rest of my life, or
No,
any
well-
particular subject
Well,
in school.
no. So English was my best subject in high school. What that means is that while I was in English class, that's where I felt the most, the strongest.
Fulfilled in a sense.
Not
like-
necessarily fulfilled, but I was good at writing. I always got like A's or B's on my essays.
So putting your thoughts, like making your thoughts come to fruition, basically.
I was really good at writing. I was a good public speaker. I didn't mind getting in front of the class and speaking.
I hate doing that.
Really?
I used to hate that, but now, things change where I'm kind of force myself to get out of my
Yeah.
comfort zone. Yeah.
So, no, for me that was all natural to me when I was in high school.
Interesting.
At first, I really didn't think much of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was only until about a year, not 2 years ago, that I started to realize, oh shit, like the stuff that I was interested in high school really ties into
What you're
I'm
doing
working
now.
with now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so here's the thing. Throughout high school, I was struck with this paradox that really fucked with me. It just fucked with me. So like the paradox was this. I'm someone who loves to learn. Like I'm super into just learning things, learning new things and studying things.
Yeah.
So I love to learn, but I hate school. That was my paradox growing up.
Okay. I think I
And-
have the same thing.
And so I was I felt better just teaching myself things that sitting in a classroom was just not for me.
Why do you think that is? Like, why?
Well,
Do you know?
because it goes. I don't know necessarily why, but it just goes back to when I sat at church and like everybody's just like doing the same thing.
Yeah,
When I'm sitting in the classroom, I just see everybody just sitting
doing
down,
the same thing.
nicely proper in rows,
Nicely
and just
aligned.
with their
Everybody's
pens, and like everybody's
just taking instructions and just accepting things.
yeah. And for me, that's not the best way that I learn. And so gravitating towards English class being my favorite class was more about the level of freedom that you have in that class. And what I mean by that is that when you're writing an essay or you're putting an opinion together or a thought, you're never really wrong.
Yeah, you can't be wrong, right? Because that's your perspective and your vision on life.
As opposed to like sitting in math class, right? 2 + 2 = 4, and it's always going to equal 4.
No matter what
There's no
ethnicity,
there's no interpretation of things.
no matter wherever you're coming from, that'll always be the answer, the universal answer. So you're kind of against just universal things,
Laws
right?
and
Laws and
rules.
rules that people address and accept.
Yeah. So
religiously.
if you really want to go, I guess, like deep into it, so math is a form of authority.
That's what we're here for.
So math is a form of authority.
Yes. Yeah.
There are rules, there are dogmas and principles
that you have
that
to
you
follow.
cannot go against.
Overlook. Yeah.
Yeah. Which growing up was just not my thing. I'm not saying like fuck math, like you need math.
Yeah, of course.
But growing up, that was just not the way that I learned. I really value freedom, and sitting in an English classroom allowed me to have that freedom.
Got it.
And I think that's why I think like an entrepreneur, or that's why I'm somebody that wants to have their own business, because I value freedom.
And you have your own way of going about certain ideas in certain ways.
Right. So then valuing freedom led me to value creativity.
Do you think that your valuing freedom so much comes from the fact that you're an immigrant and that you came, from a different country, from a country that maybe wouldn't offer you the same freedom that the U.S. offers? Because I think that I have that in a sense where every single day I give my all, knowing that I'm privileged, in a sense where I'm privileged to have this freedom. I'm privileged to have this opportunity to open a business, which is Fiber Fitness. So it's like, it's something that I know that, for example, if I were put in any other third world country, even in Brazil, for example, it's much more difficult for you to do what I'm doing right now. So do you think that stems a little bit from that, maybe even subconsciously, or do you not even think about that?
Absolutely not. I don't think about that.
Really?
The reason is because I'm very grateful that I'm here, but I don't think me being in America has anything to do with my will to be free.
Okay.
As an entrepreneur, I think about this all the time. Like, what if I were in Peru still?
Yeah.
Or,
okay.
But then I think again, and I'm like, like,
you would probably still find your way.
It doesn't matter if I was in Peru still, or if I'm here, or if I get thrown deep in a jungle in Africa. I'm gonna figure out a way
To produce content.
way to produce value.
Just create a camera out of bamboo or some shit like that.
No, but I'll figure out a way to be free.
That's
because when you're an entrepreneur, you can't let externalities affect you.
You can't let the environment define your success.
Right. And that reminds me of so Charles Darwin. He was the dude that studied evolution and all that stuff. Now, I don't know too much about Charles Darwin, but I do know this. He came to the conclusion after all his years of studies, he studies species
Dedicating
and
his
how
whole
they
life.
evolved and all of that. He came to one of his conclusions were this, and it's a quote by him, and you can look this up. He said that it's not the strongest or the fastest species that survive. The species that survive are the ones who are the most adaptable.
Yes. Yeah. I've heard that before. Yeah.
Right?
Which I agree 100%.
So if I were placed somewhere else, maybe it could be a little bit more difficult, but I'll adapt.
Yeah, but like, don't you think that, for example, like, I agree 100% with everything you just said, to a point where if I were put right now in any other country, in like the most deepest jungles of Africa, I would have the same mindset you just talked about. But what if you were kind of forced? Like, what if that 2 year old JT stayed in Peru and you grew up with the ideologies of Peru and with the school system of Peru and all that stuff? Do you still think that you would develop the same form of thinking that you have today? Because maybe society, like the Peruvian society, would kind of force you to have a certain mindset, as opposed to like when you're, for example, the 2 year old JT came to America, and America's all about patriotism, it's all about freedom. So, we're taught that in school as well. So, do you think that that is a determining factor to the mindset you have right now, as opposed to, like, for example, like two different
Yeah.
outcomes if you were to have stayed in Peru and grew up there, to like you now saying that they could take you now and put you in Peru?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick.
It's like, yeah. Okay, okay.
No, but I mean,
Okay, so while JT goes to the bathroom, I'll just try to keep you guys entertained. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. I went out of my way to try to produce this the best way possible, to try to give you guys a high production value, where, I purchased this table. I got, professional lights. I got three different angles, three different video shots, that I'll play around with in post editing. If you guys are watching this right now, then that means I already have, where I'll be switching between cameras. So whenever I'm saying something, this camera will be, on me, which it should be right now. And whenever JT is saying something, I'll have the other camera right here, which you guys can't see, capturing what he's saying. And yeah, so my intention with this podcast is just basically to have people like JT, people who, I'm sorry, people similar to JT, just ordinary, ambitious, hungry individuals who aspire to be more. You could pass in front. Oh, you got it. People who aspire to be more, each and every day. So, like, that's why I want to start this quote unquote movement, where I want to just offer a platform for people to come on and express their ideas, just like we're doing right now, where we're expressing our ideas regarding religion, regarding school, regarding philosophy. So it'll range, you know, um, throughout different subjects, and it won't have a particular uh, theme for each podcast episode. So that's why I didn't want it to be scripted. I didn't want it to have specific questions that I'll ask each guest, because I think that when you have questions pre-established, you're so focused on asking those questions that you don't really end up listening to what the guest or what the person being interviewed has to say. So you're always caught up in your own mind, and I think that that also makes the guest nervous, to a point where when they watch one episode, they kind of already get a feel of what that episode will be like, and so they'll go on to the episode preparing themselves to respond to those questions that they know I ask everybody else that came before them. And also, the fact that this is non scripted, it'll give that dynamic feel to it. So, for example, it doesn't really matter who I'm interviewing, we'll have certain value coming out of each episode. So that'll be also, a major plus in my opinion, where, you'll tune into each episode, and, the subjects could range from, talking about philosophy, Aristotle's. Is
No, it's
I can never pronounce his name. Is it
Aristotle.
Aristotle? I said
Yeah,
Aristotle.
no, it's not I mean, if you're
Aristotle.
pronouncing and really enunciating the T,
Yeah, it's Aristotle.
Aristotle.
Aristotle. Yeah,
Yeah.
so talking about Plato,
Plato.
Aristotle. And the reason I'm mispronouncing these words is because I went to high school in Brazil. So I studied a lot of philosophy in Brazil. Oh, are we live?
Yeah, we're live right
All right,
now.
so I studied a lot of philosophy there, and the words are obviously mispronounced. Yo, I think I'm gonna do that as well on mine.
Do it.
Yeah,
Let's go.
just like
Let's
do.
both go live.
All right. So as you guys can tell, this is we're still rolling. God damn it, yo, 40 minutes. It's been 40 minutes already.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that went by fast. Does it feel like it went 40 minutes to you? No. It went by pretty quick. All right. How do you do live on this? All right, guys, just bear with us real quick. Let's just start the live. All right, checking connection. You're now live. All right, guys, you guys are witnessing. I don't think anybody's on here yet. Where can I post this or
there.
put this? All right. So you joined it? Okay. I'll just place this right here. Is there any? Yeah, the water bottle. I'll just put the water bottle right here. All right. So I'll just leave this here. All right. So let's just continue talking, the conversation.
Yep.
All right. So we were talking about school, right? When
Yep.
you went to the bathroom. So, for example, do you think, because a lot of people have this misconception?
You said we were.
Huh?
This just sounds weird on live. You said we were talking to school when you went to the bathroom.
When you went to the bathroom?
Like we went to the bathroom together. And
Oh
were
no, we
talking.
didn't. We did not go to. No. When you took the bathroom break and you went to.
Yeah, so we were talking about school. Yeah.
Yeah. So like a lot of people have this misconception where they believe that you should go to college in order to be successful. What's your opinion on college? What do you think about the whole, especially nowadays with all of those opportunities that we have with social
Yeah.
media and technology?
I think college is a scam.
A scam.
Yeah. College is a fucking ripoff, and here's why. For one, you can't get a refund. College is like one of the only businesses that you are a customer to that you can't get a refund. And you have to get this straight too. You're a customer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Colleges
It is a business. Yeah.
Colleges spend millions and millions of dollars on marketing. Right.
Yep.
And recently they've actually been getting very social media savvy. Like sometimes
I've
I'll
seen-
scroll on my Instagram feed
Yeah.
and I'll see like a Montclair
Harvard or
State
something.
University ad or like a Rutgers ad or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're spending money on marketing.
Did you know that college? Hold on, let me just. All right, guys. So I'm trying to give you guys different perspectives. Did you know that college tuition is the only thing that you can't default when it comes to debt?
And that's fucked up.
So even if you die, your family has to pick
I
up
didn't know that. For
on
real?
where you left. Like that'll follow you for the rest of your life. Like you can't declare bankruptcy and it'll go away. Like that doesn't happen. So your family, your kids, your mother, your aunt, like they'll trace down the person that's like most connected to you and they'll tell them like you have to pay for JT's tuition. So even if you die.
That's like some fucking mafia shit.
That's insane to me. And that's one of the reasons why I dropped out. I'm like, nah, fuck this shit.
Yeah, so college is just the educational system has not changed since the educational system was invented.
Yes.
The classrooms you sit in, the form in which you learn is still the same.
The systematic way of
So,
teaching.
While technology has advanced, while communications have advanced, the way we interact with everything has advanced except the way you're learning in a classroom.
It's still that square that they try to make round students. Like they try to put for example, I think the same way when it comes to religion as well. Right? It's
Yeah.
just something so antiquated. Like the Bible was written when? Like, do you know?
I don't know.
It was
when
like-
it was written. I have no
yeah.
fucking idea.
It's fucking years and years ago. And then they still follow that religiously. And that's my problem with religion. That's my problem with radicalism. Is it radicalism? Radical
Like
Islam.
Radical. Okay, so radicalism. You're trying to explain somebody who's very
Who's very like
Deep.
that
Okay.
that follows that religiously with a lot of, I don't know how to explain it, but essentially like that's what I want to say is like both the school system and our religious system are all just built on this antiquated foundation that is currently crumbling. Slowly but surely it's crumbling because people are starting to understand that there are different ways of viewing the world, especially with the advent of technology and the way that people interact with each other, communicate. So people are seeing different sources of information, and the more sources of information you have at your disposal, in a click of a button, you'll go on Google, search up scientific research and all that shit. You'll start seeing like questioning, like, wait, okay, so the Bible says that I should do this, but I don't think that, that's the right thing to do in this circumstance because I have these other things that I can do instead. And you know that because you have more information coming your way. So, so what do you think would be the way to kind of resolve this school issue? Do you did you ever think about ways of like making the educational system better by any chance?
Yeah. Well, how to make the educational system better? If I had the answer to that, I'd be a fucking multi-billionaire.
Millionaire.
But I don't have the answer to that.
100%.
I think that definitely college is not the only way to go.
Okay.
It can contribute to part of your success, but it has nothing to do with your success.
It doesn't determine your success.
That's for sure. I think that most people who do decide to go to college are part of the reason, or a big majority of the reason why they go, and it's just to satisfy
their parents,
society, and their parents. Because there still is a huge stigma with not going to college.
For sure.
Right? And I don't think that you need it.
Need to go.
For the same reason that I don't think you need religion.
The way that I view college today, like acquiring a college degree, to me, that's just a tool, a resource that you use to leverage a corporate job. So for example, if you want to work at Google, if you want to be an executive at Apple, then you kind of have to go through that system. You kind of have to go down that path, go to a traditional business school, an Ivy League school, so you can get be considered for that position.
Honestly, I still disagree with that. Here's why. So I think nothing beats if you really hungry for something, you'll figure out some way to get
to that point.
But there's patience, right? And let's talk about opportunity cost a little bit.
Okay.
Let me paint two scenarios for you.
Sure.
So a while ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's a bank teller at a bank, right? And a bank teller at a bank is like the lowest position you can get at a bank. You're just like the clerk or whatever. And I was like, dude, so you're working at this bank, and how long would it take you to, like work your way up
to scale yourself,
to like be a manager or something? And he told me like about 4 to 5 years, like maybe he could do it.
God damn it. That's a lot of time.
Yeah, but it's the same amount of time that people are in college for.
Yeah.
So somebody who decides to go to college, say to study finance, can graduate with a bachelor's degree in finance and jump right into being a manager at a bank.
Okay. Yeah. I get
my friend
what you're
who didn't go to college, started as a bank teller, can take the same amount of time and end up in the same position with probably even more knowledge
and without going in debt, right?
That's a big factor.
The major factor, I think, right? It's like you don't have to go out of your way to pay all of that money or give them all that money.
I think it's just, I can't even put it into words, man. It's such a huge fucking scam.
College.
I think in like the next year or two, there's going to be a great collapse. A great shift.
How so?
All right. So if you look at history, and when I say history, I mean like very recent history. So you know how in 2008 we had the
crisis.
Yeah, that crisis, the recession.
Yeah.
So that's a very common thing. It actually happens on average every 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, it's a cyclical thing.
Yeah.
And that's what Ray Dalio says, the CEO of Bridgewater Associates.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
He
So
talks about
I'm
how
not
it's a
stupid. I know what I'm
cycle
talking
and stuff.
about.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. You're good. You're good. You're
Okay.
good.
All right. All right. Cool. Cool. All right. So the last time it happened, it was in '08, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody blamed the banks.
Yeah.
So ideally, what was going on was that banks were just giving out loans to people to anybody
Without doing background checks,
without,
basically,
yeah.
essentially,
So
yeah,
anybody
could get a
can
loan.
get a loan, and
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why
Yeah,
this shit
yeah,
got fucked up.
because interest rates lowered, so then people were getting money
Yeah.
easily.
You know
without
who else is giving anybody loans?
schools.
College. Yeah.
Yeah.
Colleges.
Why? Because you can't default on that debt. It's with you for your whole life, so it's like you'll pay them back, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So that's what's gonna happen next. Colleges are just like loaning money to people, assuming they could pay it back, and
And it's gonna backfire
it's
eventually.
gonna backfire. And so, I believe that the next financial crisis, people are gonna blame colleges. And the interesting part is that those people that are doing all the blaming and complaining are gonna be the weak-minded people.
In what sense?
Because weak-minded people point fingers at other things
Rather than assume the error,
rather than
and
saying,
rather than assume.
So most people take college loans. So when this crisis happens, people are gonna be like, "Oh, like fuck the colleges, like
Yeah.
they did this shit,"
Yeah.
instead of saying, "Oh, fuck me for taking this loan. Like,
Yeah.
why did I
for
accept this shit?
falling for this shit.
Why did I fall for this trap?"
Yeah.
So that's what I think is gonna happen.
Okay. Yeah. And you talked about how if you had the solution for the educational system, you would be a multi-billionaire, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of multi-billionaire, Mark Zuckerberg is actually developing a system or a platform where he wants to do just that. Because the way that he understands it, and I think this is the most accurate way of seeing it, is that like school should be catered to each person, right? To each student's individual ambitions, each person's individual way of seeing things. And so it should be an incubator where you attract kids and you kind of cater to each specific talent that they have. So let's say that little Andy loves math, right? So you would help little Andy double down in that love, in that, thing that he. Am I making sense? And like doubling down towards something rather than having little Andy work hard to like get approval from the school system by trying to get A's in every single subject. So like that's what Mark Zuckerberg is trying to do. He's trying to create a system where it'll be much more expensive, but you'll have, for example, like 5 different teachers for one student.
Yeah. Actually, now that you mentioned grading, I have a huge problem with grades. I don't believe in grades
Why?
because it doesn't represent what you know. For example,
Yeah,
for example, if I have a test coming up and I don't show up, I get an F.
Yeah.
That F says that I failed. It also says that I'm not that smart. People don't know the circumstances behind you getting the F.
Sure.
Right? And what that also allows people to do is that I read an article, and I still remember this article from my freshman year in college because it stuck with me, and it was nothing but the truth. The article was about college students. While they're in college, what they do is they psych out, and what that means is that when you're sitting in class, you're not sitting there to learn. You're just sitting there to pass.
To obey as well, right?
Well, to obey. Yeah, but like the purpose of a college student, what they have turned their purpose into, is to pass.
Yeah.
That's all they care about is just the letter grade to pass. And what happens is when you value the letter grade, you
More than the information
you forget
itself.
about learning.
Yeah, because like my way of seeing grading is it tests your level of obedience, right? So the student that gets an A, he's not necessarily the most smartest student within the classroom. He's just a student that's able to follow orders more effectively. to an extent where he does everything the teacher wants him to do and everything that the system tells him to do, to a point where he acquires that A grade, as opposed to the C student is the kid that kind of follows orders, but at the same time, he kind of does things his own way. So
Yeah.
that's not good though, because the system wants you to comply completely and just do it exactly as the professor tells you to do. And that's what I have troubles with as well, because I'm kind of I'm kind of against authority as well, just like you are. So it's like I can't follow to a point where, for example, like each night I try to set up my day, right, my daily schedule, and I'm so against authority that the Cali from, let's say that tonight I'll regroup, set up my schedule for tomorrow. The Cali that sets up the schedule at night today has good intentions in mind, right? Like I want to max out the amount of productive things that I'll do tomorrow. But the Cali tomorrow will look at that and be like, wait, like I'm not gonna follow this shit, because it's kind of weird where I'll go to an extent where, hold on, I'll go to an extent where I can't even follow my own self and what I tell myself to do. Do you also have that problem?
I don't.
You don't?
I
So-
think what you're experiencing. Okay, so in the world of literature, and
Are you captured?
Huh?
Are you captured right now?
Yeah, I can
is
see
it
myself.
All right, cool.
In the world of literature, you learn about one of the things you learn about telling a good story is conflict.
Conflict. Okay. Conflict of interest.
No. Well,
That
that is
too.
a type of conflict, but you learn about 3 conflicts. The conflicts are this: man versus nature, man versus man, so a person versus another person, and man versus self.
So I'm
So
I'm experiencing
you're
man versus self for
probably
sure.
not. Yeah, you're just experiencing a conflict with
For
yourself.
sure, an inner conflict, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have very serious problems with that, to a point where I told you this before, right? I have problems with meetings, for example. It's like if I schedule a meeting with you for 1:30 p.m., I'll probably arrive at 2, because and I don't do that intentionally, like a fuck you JT, like oh, like I'll arrive whenever I want, but that goes like for everybody. It's like it's a point where I constantly believe like, all right, I could get this done and this done, but I don't have a firm conception of what time is. So I think that my greatest problem is the fact that I can't really grasp or manage the time that well. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have that problem. What you're experiencing is a lack of sense of urgency.
Yes. Well, not really, because I have a sense of urgency in
Well,
completing
if
each
you had a
task.
sense of urgency,
No. But that's the thing, though. I have a sense of urgency towards the minor tasks, the multitasks that I feel like I can accomplish in that small time frame. But when it comes to meeting with JT at 1:30, I have troubles with that because I don't see that as being a primordially important thing, if that makes sense, right? So like I treat, for example, let's say that the meeting's at 1:30 and it's currently 12 o'clock, and let's say that I have like 20 emails to respond, and I have like another thing to do. I'll try to use and maximize that time for optimization and to get as much shit done, things that will benefit me in the long run. So I don't view our meeting as being a beneficial thing for the long run. And that's how my brain just acts. So it's kind of weird. So I'm always late to meetings because I'll be responding emails and then time goes by and then I'll look at the watch. I'm like, holy shit, the meeting's in 15 minutes and it's a 30-minute drive. And then I'll arrive there, but that's not like intentionally though. That's just subconsciously. And I kind of read that somewhere that people who do that tend to be like people who believe that they can do the most in like the smallest amount of time. So that could be good and it could be bad. Because I think that
now I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I doing the most in the least amount of time is something I've been a master at in school because I work
especially
well,
with homework and
I
stuff.
work well under pressure,
yeah.
and so
That's a big thing.
of the essays that I've gotten A's and B's on were essays that I've written the night before or 2 nights before. But for me, nothing has ever been planned.
Yeah.
So I
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Just recently, I've been trying to plan things out, but I've always been someone that just kind of
Impulsive.
I haven't not necessarily impulsive, but I always have in mind what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just procrastinate one
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. That's how I was, because I knew that. Okay, so back to the essay thing. If you give me a week to write an essay, if I work on an essay for that week,
It won't come out as
it
good.
probably might not be as good as if I wrote it under pressure.
And pressure in this case being time, right?
Yeah,
The
time
small-
constrictions. Yeah,
Mhm.
because if I plan an essay in a week, my mind would just be all over the place. I'll never
Okay.
be satisfied. But if I'm under pressure,
Then
I'm
you kind of
like-
force your mind to double down on
my
one
mind just
path.
starts thinking about. I'm like in survival mode.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's segue now into what do you think we should talk about now? Hold on. Let me see if there's anybody live here. All right, guys. So we've done how much time has it been? I think it's been like an hour or some shit. I don't know how many people are on live right now, but yeah. All right. So okay. So what's your long-term goal in life? Do you have a well-established long-term goal at all, or no? Like like right now you're creating content, you're slowly hustling on a daily basis and working and stuff, but what's your macro long-term goal? Like where do you see yourself in 10, 15, 20 years from now?
Where do I see myself in 10, 15, 20 years from now? I don't look that far down.
You don't.
No, I like to have ideas, but I think that looking too deep into the future puts you in a position where you forget about the present. And I think that living in the present is far more important.
Then contemplating and thinking about
Well,
where you'll be.
no, well, thinking about the future is cool. It's good. It's fine. You should plan out for the future. But I'm saying some people live in the future, meaning
they don't allocate the energy necessary for them to actually lift themselves off of where they're at right now to actually work towards that future self.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like to live in the now.
Yeah. And just maximize your opportunities and take advantage. Yeah. Do you know Matthew McConaughey?
Nope.
Is
Matthew
it McConaughey? McConaughey.
The actor?
Yeah.
Matthew?
No. It's not Matthew. It's the guy from The Wolf of Wall Street that says, all right.
Matthew
that's the-
McConaughey? Matthew His name is Matthew.
Yeah, but do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he said this, I think it was at the Oscars. He said that every single day he doesn't compare himself to anybody. Let me just see if this is still going. Yeah, so he says that he doesn't compare himself to anybody. Rather, what he does is he compares himself to the person he'll be in 1 year. So what does he mean by that? Instead of you looking at Gary Vee, for example, and saying like, I want to be like Gary Vee, I'm chasing that position. I want to be the head of a major media company, even maybe the head of VaynerMedia, for example, right? So you want that spot. Instead of doing that, you try to chase the person you'll be in 1 year. So he said that he chases himself. And that way, it forces him to double down on his strengths rather than trying to compare himself. Like, rather than trying
Gotcha.
to compete with other people, you're competing with who you are, or rather, who you'll be in 1 year from now.
I think that I might have been misinterpreted when I said that I don't look into the future. That that might seem the
Yeah,
way I
like-
said it didn't
like,
sound so well. But
you
here's
don't
what
care about
Let me
the future.
clarify. Here's what I mean by
Gotcha.
that. Now that you brought up Gary Vee, the reason why I know what my visions are,
Yeah.
right?
Your goals.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you an example. So my vision in the future, um, I'm gonna have a full out production company.
Okay.
Right. So right now, what I currently freelance is content creation and branding strategy. But I want to have
A team.
business, a team, a business that focuses on that, so that I'm not just freelancing it.
Yeah, sure.
But the reason why I'm not living in the future and I'm living in the now is because I'm reverse engineering. So I have my vision, right? I want to have my production company.
Yeah.
And then I work back. So what do I need to do to have that production company? Well, I have to have equipment. Okay, cool. What do I have to do to have that equipment? Well, I have to have money
hustle
to buy that equipment. Okay, cool. What do I need to do to have money? Well, I have to make money doing something before I get there. Okay, cool. How do I make that money?
By adding value to other.
Okay, I have to build a team now to make more money to buy more equipment. How do I build up a team? Well, I have to build up my credibility first, establish my personal brand,
Of course.
and add value. So you look into the future, you reverse engineer, and you end up in the present. And that's where I live. And each day it's like that until I get there. But I don't stay there. Because when you reverse engineer, you bring yourself back to the now, the present.
And you kind of give yourself a guideline towards achieving that macro goal, right?
Yeah.
Because I also believe in like micro urgency and macro patience. So I think that's kind of what you're saying in a sense where, but you specified saying that you reverse engineer your goal and you break it down into smaller portions that are more digestible, right? So where you'll be able to digest it today and kind of like digest like small bits of it until you get to that full meal, I guess you can say, right?
Yeah, it's not necessarily breaking it. Yeah, I guess you are breaking it down, but you're not necessarily breaking down into smaller portions. You're just working your way back. So it's like, what do I need to do right now to get there? And that's what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
And so when you think like that, you have to live in the now.
Yeah.
Because literally in the statement, what do I have to do right now to get there?
To get to that point.
That's what I'm thinking about. And if I'm thinking about that, I have to stay present.
True.
I have to stay present. Like the vision helps me, the vision is always there, but the vision is in the future. And you don't want to be too delusional.
Yeah.
You don't want to
be too
you don't want
ignorant.
to you don't want to put yourself in a position where you think you're there already, because that can actually hurt you in the end.
No, for sure.
Because all you're doing when you think you're already there is you're hoping.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a perfect segue to like, for example, you see a lot of people that are okay with living off of image, right? In a sense where, especially now in this whole social media society, it's enough for you to have a pair of Gucci flip-flops and take pictures and post it on Instagram. And that validation from your followers and from people, from your peers and stuff, like liking your picture and that attention that you get from all of the ladies and stuff, like that's enough to fulfill you. So that keeps you satisfied. And then what people don't like, people lost the need to actually establish long-term goals, because most people just go out and they lease a BMW just so they can drive around the city in front of the main nightclubs and just taunt their possessions as a way to acquire validation.
yeah,
So their epitome, the maximum point, the summit of their satisfaction is predicated on the validation of others.
it's interesting you say that, because I do know people.
I know a lot
I
of
know-
people. I can name them
I
right
know
now,
people
like
that have
right off the
Gucci
bat.
flip-flops. I know people that lease
BMWs and cars and cars. Yes. That's why I brought it up, because like everybody knows that person, and there's always that one person that's like that you ask them about their goals, and they're like, oh shit.
The problem is that people like that just get satisfied with quick highs.
Yes, exactly.
Like, it's just insane to me.
It's just quick
that-
validation.
You know what it is too, man? All right, for example, you know who else has Gucci flip-flops? Future. The multi-million-dollar rapper.
Trapper. Yeah.
I don't make as much money as Future.
Yeah.
Why the fuck am I gonna spend
Yeah.
the same amount of money he does?
Yeah. Exactly.
That just makes no sense.
It makes no sense, and it shows that you have no vision for the
And
future.
if you spend rapper money on shit, what that is really doing is probably masking your insecurities. You're trying to just fix something in yourself.
Yes.
Maybe you think you're ugly. So I mean, I don't want to fucking
No.
make anybody feel offended.
Yeah.
But maybe you think
I
you're
get it,
ugly,
though.
and so
Yeah.
you gotta fucking wear expensive shit.
Compensate that with
I don't know, man. I don't know, but I do know what you're talking about, and
you do know people who go down that road. Yeah. I know a lot of people, and I don't want to like state names or anything, but like what you just said, for example, did you know that a person that portrays themselves in an excessive manner, let's say a person is overly confident, that guy that walks in, his chest out, his walk, he down, like just like that person that that's overly confident, acts overly intelligent and all that stuff. Did you know that whenever you're excessive or portray yourself in excessive manner, that's really your brain in survival mode trying to compensate for what you lack?
Gotcha.
Because it makes 100% sense if you think about it, because that's just the law of the jungle. It's like, wait, you lack confidence? Confidence is crucial to your survival. So your brain does what? It overcompensates. So then you're going to go out, buy some Gucci flip-flops, buy a watch that you'll probably pay off in the next year, but you'll need that because that's your symbol, because that's what you lack right there. It's on you. So people can't doubt it because you're like, yo, I spent $5,000 on this watch. Fuck you, right? I spent $100 on these flip-flops. Fuck you. So it's just validation.
Yeah.
It's just survival instinct.
For me, what I have truly mastered is, one, to have that confidence. And so I don't give a fuck about looking cool because I know I am cool.
Tell people about what you did with your car. I mean, like, people don't know about that, right?
All right, so you mentioned people lease their cars to have some sort of validation. Right? So recently I donated my car.
So you did the complete opposite.
Yeah, I got rid of my car.
Uber everywhere.
Kinda, or walk everywhere, man. I walk 20 miles every week.
Yeah, which is
4
insane.
miles each day because I go to the gym and I walk to the gym, which is 2 miles away from me. So I walk there and I walk back.
That's good cardio too.
It's definitely really good cardio. I want to say I've lost like 10 pounds in this month.
Just after you sold your car, your car. Wow.
So I got rid of my car.
So if you want to lose weight, sell your car.
If you want to lose weight, you got to get rid of your car. You just got to walk everywhere.
Got it.
So really for me, it's just I know that if I want to build a business, if I want to start something and I want to create a legacy, I have to sacrifice a couple things.
Yeah. 100%.
When you're trying to build something greater than yourself, you have to sacrifice some things.
And not a lot of people are willing to do that.
Yeah, because most people are average.
And most people get complacent as well.
You get complacent, yeah. So I got rid of my car because, one, I felt like I didn't need it. I didn't want to pay insurance for it. It became more of a liability than an asset.
Okay.
And I felt like if I'm able to lower my standard of living, I can increase the investment into what I'm trying to build.
Your main priority.
Yeah.
So so it's just that tunnel vision thing. It's where you're prioritizing what truly matters and what will benefit you in the long run.
Yeah.
Rather than yeah, just having the opportunity to flaunt your BMW, flaunt your Mercedes, flaunt your Jaguar, so other people can accept you. And I think that also, like, we could easily segue into like tribalism, because that's what it comes down to. It's like
Explain.
everybody has this need to be a part of a tribe, to be a
Mhm.
part of a family, to connect, right? So what you do is you try to prove your worth, because that's how our ancestors functioned. When you have a small tribe, your worth is predicated on how much value you bring to the tribe. So if you're a good hunter, you're going to be extremely accepted. You're going to be validated, right? But if you're only, dead weight, then you're going to be probably killed off, and you won't be, a part of that tribe. And so, for example, I think that
Well, I'm not sure what you're really saying. If you're a good hunter, you're going to be a good hunter whether or not you have a big stick or a small stick.
mm,
And having that big stick is like
no, 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 no,
having
no, no,
those
no,
Gucci
no.
flip flops. It's like that saying that goes like, it's not the bow, it's the person. It's the
No,
person
yeah, no,
behind the
no, no, no,
bow.
no, no, yeah. But what I'm trying to say is like, for example, during tribal times, your value was defined as like what you bring to the table,
Mm-hmm.
right? Rather than, like, it doesn't matter if you kill a lion with your bare hands. What matters is that you're bringing food and resources back to your tribe.
Gotcha.
So that is what's gonna define your value. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that hunter could just hunt
Yeah, yeah.
barehanded, right? It doesn't matter like how big he is. It doesn't matter how skinny he is or what weapons he uses. What matters is what he brings to others. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm trying to get to. It's like nowadays it's the complete opposite. What matters more is like your Gucci flip flops. How big is your bank account? How much shoes do you have? How much this and that, and that's predicated on your self worth. So you associate that to your self worth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what I'm trying to say. And what's interesting is if you also analyze just basic human behavior, the reason why, going back to the whole college thing, the reason why college is known as this very liberal place where it's parties all the time. It's just, crazy parties, getting drunk and binge drinking and all that shit, is because at like the age of I think it's 16 to like 22, that's the age where men, especially men, we are programmed to how do I put this? We are programmed to prove our worth, because that goes
Mm-hmm.
back to our ancestors. It's like when the boy turns into the man, right? So
Gotcha.
like in hunting days, that's when your father, your uncle, the tribe leader would grab you by the hand and say, "Bring back food today, or you're not a part of this tribe anymore.
Mm.
Go prove your worth. Go prove that you became a man." So each culture has their way of defining that moment. And what happens in modern society is like, we don't have to hunt, we don't have to do anything, laborish, like labor intensive or anything like that. Most people don't. So what happens is you put these kids in a college scenario where, peer pressure skyrockets. And so the way that they prove themselves in their manlyhood is through drinking, through using drugs. Who gets laid the most?
Like who can chug the fastest?
Who chugs the fastest? Yeah, that's all. Like, that's your tribe.
Yeah, I get you.
So like that was extremely interesting to me, because like it makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, I mean, that's just nature. That's just humans.
yeah, that's just natural
I mean,
behavior. It's
it
just how.
doesn't. Yeah, it's just. Yeah, that's just nature.
Do you think that this need for connection, this need to like actually interact with people and be a part of a community, do you think that like do you see that going away anytime soon, especially with virtual reality and all that shit that's coming? Like, did you watch Player One, Ready Player One?
I did not.
No, it touches on that where it's like the world got so overly populated that you experience everything through your virtual reality headset. So you literally live in this, like, a box as big as this studio section right here, and that's your whole house. That's your whole existence. But the way that you experience life, ironically so, is through your virtual reality headset. So then you acquire freedom, and you connect with other people and other players through that. So do you see that becoming a reality anytime soon? Have you ever thought about virtual reality? Or has that never, because that scares the fuck out of me. Like I think about that, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like because we're slowly getting to that point where it's like, for example, this podcast. How many times have you been invited to sit down with somebody to just talk like over an hour? Just talk. Like how many times does that happen with frequency during your week?
Never.
Exactly. And
But
that's probably a common response for
but
everybody or most people.
but this like okay. So you're saying that technology is gonna like ruin communication?
Not ruin it, but it's going to kind of make it obsolete. It's going to kind of make it not as important like literal human interaction.
I don't think that technology ruins communication or makes it obsolete. I don't think that social media ruins communication or makes it obsolete. I think that social media is one of the most human things we have. Additionally, I think social media enhances our human capabilities.
How so?
I can message my aunt in Peru right now and have a conversation with her if I wanted to on Facebook.
True. True.
And so we're having a connection, and it has enhanced our my human capability of
Your
having to fly
reach.
over there.
Yeah.
Now, virtual reality, that's even more intense because with virtual reality, you have things like holograms even.
Yeah.
So maybe we're going to get to a point
Where your aunt could just pop up.
where I can be there.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a hologram of me in Peru, and there's gonna be a hologram of my aunt in my room in Jersey here, and we're gonna be next to each other, even though we're not.
Okay, but do you think that hologram would suffice? Like, would that be enough? Like, that's what I'm trying to get to. It's like,
It's not about whether it's gonna suffice. It's just it's efficient.
it's efficient in the sense of communication, but like our brains are designed to like for example, there's the it's our brain has a very strong reward system, right? Endorphins, like just all of these chemicals, dopamine and all that stuff that derive from human connection.
Gotcha.
So the point I'm trying to get to is like, do you think that that'll be enough? Like seeing your aunt's hologram will get to a point where that's the
Definitely.
norm.
I think that if I'm in Jersey and my aunt is in Peru, and I don't want to, and I'm not able to spend $1,000 to catch a flight to Peru, that I'm gonna get a huge spike of dopamine if I'm able to, using virtual reality, be able to see my aunt next to me.
Interesting.
I think that technology just connects us more and more each day, the more it evolves.
Got it.
And the people who complain about it are just people who
don't understand it.
Yeah, who one don't understand it, but two, back to that Darwin quote, are incapable of adapting to it.
For sure. Agreed. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, it's just so weird to me. It's just one of those things that, okay, so since we're on this technology platform, what's your opinion on AI? Like, what's your opinion on Alexa? Stop. Yeah, so like, what's your opinion on all of these? Just do you think? Because like, for example, you love it.
I think that you have to embrace it and you have to accept it. Otherwise, you're just going to be left behind. Like, I mean, you have to look at history to just understand that you have to accept it. Before there was radio, all you had was newspapers.
Yeah.
And then when radio was invented, people who grew up with the newspaper were like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't like this shit.
I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to use this. This technology is too crazy for me.
Until
these kids don't know nothing about the newspaper.
These kids these days.
And the people that said that put huge amounts of value on reading as communication.
As opposed to the...
Now, let me tell you something really interesting.
Mhm.
Before, what's this dude's name? The dude that created the printing press.
I could look it up right now, but...
Gutenberg, Johann,
Okay.
I don't know. But you know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
So the reason we're able to read text is because somebody invented something called the printing press, which allowed words to be printed on paper, right? The first book that was ever printed was the Bible. Before the printing press, there were no books. All you had was like people were writing with, I don't know, like feather and ink. Like that's just how it was.
And just carving it out
There
in
was
rocks
no
and shit.
mass production of books.
Johannes Gutenberg.
So he invented the
Gutenberg,
printing press. So because of him, you're able to have books mass produced.
Yes.
Before him, there weren't any books.
Mhm.
Like there were books, but books were handwritten.
Yeah. Which took much more time and which
Right.
de-incentivized
Now let me get
people.
to the part that I was trying to get to. So you know how I said that people who were accustomed to reading the newspaper were like, oh, this radio shit, I can't they didn't adapt to it. You know what's funny? I think it was Socrates. He did not like books. So, well, not necessarily books. All right, so he did not like written text.
Okay.
He was against it because he valued in-person lectures. He did not like the idea of people reading a lecture
Rather than being there
than
present.
being at the lecture.
Okay.
But then technology advanced.
And he
Now
kind of
you're
had
able
to
to
adapt.
read shit.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of living in the time that you're living in.
And it's a matter of being able to
adapting.
to adapt.
I think that's going to be like this podcast
Yeah.
main takeaway. That
Yeah.
it's not the strongest.
Yeah, because we touched a lot about on adapting. I think that's the main topic of this.
Adaptability.
Yeah. It's just we touched on so much shit, like school, technology, religion, everything. Everything revolves around that. But like, for example, like I think a lot about how we're kind of creating a different species, if that makes sense. Like AI, like aren't you scared of AI being so intelligent and adapting so well to our way of living that they become better than us? And that, for example, like they begin to like create their own thinking process. Because I don't know if you read, for example, like there was this incident, I think it was at Google or Facebook, where they had two AIs. These two AIs started communicating between each other. And they communicated not in our native language. They communicated in their own language. They created a language that only they could understand, and they began communicating between each other. And people at Google or Facebook, I forget, they shut down those robots because they were scared. Because it got to a point where, like, dude, like I get goosebumps right now. It's like they were communicate, like, I think like I saw the dialogue. It was like B B B B, like just like words and stuff, like a different language. It's like that scares me to a point where like they're creating these robots. I don't know if you saw one of Will Smith's vlogs where he talks to Sophie. Do you know? Yeah. So like Sophie is, you know, the greatest example of where we're getting to. It's like it's that robot, and it's weird that we're modeling these highly advanced beings after ourselves. So it's why not? Yeah,
that's how the story of God, right?
Yeah,
God created
exactly.
man
But
in his
we're
own image.
playing as God right now.
That's cool.
That's cool, but until what point will that be cool? And until what point will that be scary? Because as you know, robots and AI advance, they're going to become smarter than us. They're going to be able to make calculations that we can't. What if they get to a point where Sophie is so advanced and there are hundreds of and thousands of Sophies around the world scattered, and they all catch on to the conclusion that the world would be better without humans, because we're destroying the earth, right? Like slowly but surely, daily, we're destroying the earth through pollution, through war, through all these things. And so what if we're creating something that will inevitably lead to our demise? Like, that's what I think about.
I mean, we're going to be demised eventually anyway.
We are, yeah, but like I'm scared that it'll be something that we create, though. Because isn't that like, because it comes down to that Frankenstein story where the
Gotcha,
creator
gotcha,
creates
gotcha,
something that
gotcha,
in his
gotcha.
eyes is beautiful, in his eyes is
Yeah, yeah,
amazing,
yeah.
but that creation turns on him and kills him.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so Sophie is our Frankenstein, but we
Okay.
don't see it yet. So like it's all fun and games when Will Smith goes there, does a couple of jokes.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a person behind the scenes on the computer generating her response, or maybe that's all automated.
Yeah.
But it'll get to a point where Sophie will have her opinions, and her opinions will be based on facts, and her execution and her actions will be predicated on facts. And so, I mean, the fact is that we are a nuisance to the world. We are a liability to this planet. And so I think that that's one of the reasons why Elon Musk talks a lot about that. He's horrified. He's scared of AI. He
You
talks
think
about it.
Elon Musk is scared?
He's
He's
horrified.
creating it.
He's not, yeah, but like, I don't know how to explain, but he talks a lot about how we should be careful with how we're going about this whole AI thing. Like he does it in a moderate way where he's doing it, but he's limiting its capabilities. He's scared of what he said in interviews that he's horrified and scared of what's the name of the founder of Google? Sergil. Let me just say,
I don't know.
founder
Is it
of
Larry Ellison? No, he founded
Larry Page.
Larry Page. I knew it was
yeah.
a Larry.
Yeah, so he said, and Elon Musk is very close friends with Larry Page, but he says
Mm-hmm.
that he's horrified, he's scared, because he knows that we aren't capable of being rational enough to delaying or to limit it, like just establishing limitations to that creation. So like he's scared that we'll keep advancing until it gets to a point where we can't control it anymore, and it starts to control us. Like what if Sophie turns around and says, well, I can easily hack Russia's nuclear system, and I could do this, I could do that. So like it'll be more powerful than we ever were, and it could like access our network of technology and all that shit.
Yeah, I think that it's only scary if I think that the extremity in which you are describing this is going to happen in my lifetime. That's
a
scary,
huge problem though,
I guess.
because
I don't think it will. I don't think it will get to the point where we're living in a sort of iRobot world. Not in
Yeah,
my lifetime.
yeah.
You've seen iRobot, right?
yeah. Mhm.
I don't necessarily think I'm gonna be able to see that.
But
I think it will happen, just
but
not
not
in
in
my lifetime.
your lifetime. I think that that's one of the biggest problems as well. Is like people think about like when it comes to polluting, people pollute because they think just like that. They're like, well, if the world
Gotcha.
ends, it'll probably end, but not in my lifetime, right? So like we're very egotistic when it comes to our
Well, polluting
No,
and,
yeah.
and having.
AI.
I look at it. Okay. This is a very philosophical topic, by the way.
It is.
I think one of the philosophers that really touched into this whole technology thing is, what's this guy's name? He was also an existentialist. Heidegger. Martin Heidegger. I think was also German. He wrote a lot about this technology stuff because one of the main topics in philosophy is being.
Being, yeah.
In German, it's called Dasein,
Which means being in German.
which means being in German, to be, to exist, right? And what is being, really? And do robots have an essence?
Yeah.
And if they do have an essence, is their essence like, do they have ethics?
Yeah.
Or do they have morality?
And if so,
Can you teach them that?
yeah, like that scares me because what if their morality and their laws of ethics contradict ours, which it probably will because
Well, I
again,
mean,
like our way of thinking and going about life is
If it does, fine, that's cool because I'm doing that myself. I'm contradicting dogmatic
status
ethics.
quo. Yeah.
I'm contradicting religious principles.
Yeah.
I don't think that being good is a product of being religious. I feel like as a human, I experience pleasure and I experience pain.
Mhm.
And me on my own am able to rationalize between the two without the help of the Bible.
Okay. Basing off of your own personal experiences.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what doesn't and this is all and this is also just language, right?
Yeah.
Good, bad, it's just language.
Yeah. They're just words.
But being
really.
pinched
Doesn't feel good.
doesn't feel good.
But what if you're a person that likes pain? Like those.
Okay, well now we're
those
just
crazy-
getting very
Yeah,
specific.
specific. Yeah,
you're like,
outliers
what do you
and stuff.
call
Yeah.
those people?
I think it's misogynist.
No.
Is it not? No.
No, misogynist
Is oh shit. No,
different.
yeah, it's a masochist.
Masochist. That's the
Masochist.
fucking word.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Well,
Misogynist.
I'm not really a masochist,
Mhm.
but generally, if you're getting pinched hard, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, yeah.
It feels uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And if you want to tie that down to something, tie it to biology. When you're being pinched, your skin is being pressured into a specific point. Your cells or whatever the fuck is happening inside your body just sends signals to your brain that this is a bad thing.
Nerves and everything.
And this just goes back to like to the beginning of just biology.
Mhm.
Like you're trying to survive,
Yeah.
and so you want to minimize that pain, or
Yeah.
that pain is stressful,
Mhm.
so you want to get away from it.
Mhm.
That's really where I derive my ethics from.
I get it. I get it.
Plus, I study things like I study philosophy.
Mhm.
Philosophers
Yeah.
have
Their own
different
interpretation
opinions or
of pain.
interpretations
Yeah.
on ethics. For example, was it John Locke? I think it was John Locke. All right, so let's say it was either Thomas Hobbes or John Locke, but I think it was John Locke. So John Locke was a political philosopher, and one of the many things he said was that he talked a lot about property,
Mhm.
and he said that you can do whatever you want with your property as long as you're not affecting the property of someone else.
Mm.
So
Yeah. So
if I'm living in a house and you're living in a house next to me and I want to tear my house down,
you could do that.
I can do that. But if in my tearing the house down, there's debris that falls into your lawn,
And that affects my
I'm
wall
affecting your property, I'm not doing something right
or something ethical in this
or
case.
something ethical in this case.
Hmm.
And so I believe with what he said.
Which is essentially that your ethics should revolve around you, like how much you affect other people.
Basically, individualism.
Individual. Yeah.
And if I want to get even more deep into ethics as in the from the eyes of Buddhism,
Mhm.
Morality is a huge topic in Buddhism. And Buddhism deals a lot with giving. And Buddhism states that if you're not capable of giving,
Mhm.
at the very least, you should stay away from harming.
Okay, so if you can't add value, don't take value away.
The very least, okay, so in the very least you can do is not cause harm.
Stay neutral.
If you can, well, yeah, I guess just being but being neutral in a way can be a form of harming. If you're like, I don't know, but what I'm saying is, don't cause harm.
Yeah.
Don't talk shit.
Yeah.
Don't. I mean, try not to fuck with people. That's kind of what Buddhism says.
Mhm.
A lot of Buddhists take the extra step and they even choose not to cause harm on bugs that crawl around. Like
Anything.
All
really.
right, cause harm to anything really.
Yeah.
That's kind of how Buddhists live their life.
Yeah.
And so I study that
Mhm.
a bit. and derived some portion of that into my own mind.
So that goes back to the whole melting pot thing where you just
Yeah.
make a blend of all
I
of the different
study
ideologies.
philosophy
Yeah.
and I create my own.
Yeah.
And even the Bible too, dude. Like,
Oh yeah, there's
so
a
I
lot of
think that the
takeaways from the Bible.
Bible is a very good book to read
Mhm.
if you read it understanding that.
Objectively, if you read it, like not
Subjectively,
pragmatically.
you have
like-
to read the Bible understanding that it's fiction. I think the Bible is a very good fiction, not a fiction book,
Yeah. Yeah. True.
filled with a lot of wisdom. In fact, sometimes I read the Bible.
I don't think I've ever read the Bible.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
I'll give you one good part of the Bible. Timothy 6:10 is probably one of the verses that I just know by memory. Timothy 6:10 says that the root of all evil is the love of money. Now, most people have misinterpreted this line.
As vilifying
think-
money.
So they think that the line says the root of all evil is money. That's not what it says. It says the root of all evil is the love of money. Now, that one line right there, the love of money, it's really talking about desire. You know who else talks a lot about desire? Buddhists. The
Got it.
four noble truths, which are, if I remember correctly, the four noble truths are: 1,
I could just look it up too.
desire exists. That's the first truth. The second truth is we experience desire. Yeah, actually, yeah. Look it up because I'm not remembering properly right now.
It says, oh shit, hold up. The Four Noble Truths. It says that life has inevitable suffering. There is a cause to our suffering. There is an end to suffering. The end of suffering is contained in the Eightfold Path.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Did you? Life has inevitables. Hold up, really quickly, because I heard one of the cameras turning off. Let me just.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it was the GoPro. Yeah. What up, guys? Yeah, I think the GoPro didn't have much power in it. Alright, guys, what up? Yeah, so this has a limit to it, which kind of sucks. All right, I just resumed filming. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. We're working with very budget oriented technology right now, in a sense where I purchased a GoPro, but it's really just a ripoff. Oh, ow, I just heard it again. Yeah, so that GoPro is probably out of battery. We got a lot of content though, and we still got the direct cameras rolling, so I'll just focus on that. But yeah. Yo, so we did 1 hour and 42. So then do you want to just talk about the Buddha thing and then just end it? Yeah, because it's been 1 hour 42, almost 2 hours podcast.
Yeah.
God damn, it's been a while. Yeah, so the Four Noble Truths are: life has inevitable suffering. Is that
Go
it?
on. Yeah.
There is a cause to our suffering. There is an end to suffering. The end to suffering is contained in the Eightfold Path. What's the Eightfold Path? Do you know?
So the Eightfold Path is the path that Buddhists. So the ultimate goal in Buddhism is to attain nirvana, or enlightenment.
Okay.
And the way to attain this enlightenment is to follow the Eightfold Path, which that's all I know. I don't really know what the Eightfold Path is.
You haven't achieved nirvana yet, right? You're still working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, got it. Well, all right. So we'll just finish off with that, with just the Four Noble Truths. If any of you guys achieve nirvana, let us know. Comment below. I'm curious to see, to learn more about that and hear more about that. But yeah, so we did it. It's been 1 hour and 45 minutes. Our GoPro turned off, but we still have the direct cameras filming. Yeah, man, thanks for being on. Thanks for being a part of this. Hopefully, we'll be able to look back in a couple of months or years even and be like, holy shit, like that was the first podcast. That was the first setup. That was the first ever episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully, people watching liked it.
Hopefully
We were able to attribute some form of value to you guys. And if you liked it, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like the video, turn on your notification, the little bell thing near the subscribe button, and subscribe so you'll always be alerted when we put out new content. And I'll be reaching out to a lot of people to get you guys on an episode as well. And yeah, so we did it.
Yep.
All right, fist pump.
Fist pump.
This big ass table. All right, guys. Thanks. Take care. We did it. Holy fuck. That was. God damn it.
On my body, I'm an icon, man. And my girl about a 10. I should fuck her in a Benz.